supposed to be stop motion and go motion, the rubber prosthetics. And I said, I think I can build this thing in data. So I kind of secretly built it and had it on.
So you built it out of data.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. So instead of manufacturing out of three-dimensional objects, you created it by computers, yes?
Exactly. Well, what happened was that we first did a bone test, and that's what we did I built a bone test for the T-Rex, and we did a bone test for the T-1000. It convinced the directors. I mean, seeing is believing, you know. And it was one thing to do the bone test. It was another thing to actually build the physical data and the shadows and specular drop-off and everything. So, you know, so once they saw it, they said, that's it. The whole thing's going to be computer graphics. So that was the first big foray into computer-generated creatures at that time.
That's amazing. Steve, without going into every detail of your background, I mean, what was your original training in? Was it a technological background?
Well, no, I was military originally, and then they paid for my education to take, software and animation and simulation. And from that, I kind of became an expert at a certain piece of code, and few people in the world at that time in the mid to late 80s knew it. So it kind of fell on the radar that way. And there was really no other technical way to solve fluid dynamics back then in the late 80s, and that's how I ended up at ILM on the Abyss.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, but you are still doing animation, right, Steve?
Well, yeah, I mean, I do, but it's a lot of direct live action now. I really enjoy that. I like working on tractors, welding, blacksmithing, anything where I'm building with my hands. I love building data, wood, and that's what I try and tell kids. If you want to become proficient in data, make sure you can build in wood, first of all, and data.
Well, why is that? Why would you say a kid who works on computers should go back to the basics of working in wood?
Well, this is what the problem is with the education system in general, is that kids just do not understand how the real world operates. They think that the real world is data, and it's not. Data is an outgrowth of the original world. So if you become proficient in wood and steel and blacksmithing and understand how nature operates, then we will actually have changes in the movie industry as opposed to everything that's exactly the same. These kids that are learning about software these days, right, they get confused if you give them a block of wood and a knife. They don't know what to do with it,
So but let's go back to your developing T-Rex. You didn't have a real animal to play with. So what did you do? You said you went to the bones of the animal. What did you mean by that?
Well, I figured I'd do it how nature does it. Start with the bones, tendons, muscles, vacuum wrap it, and see what the hell you get. In animation, it really is the study of nature, and the study of how animals move. So I thought...
What are you working on today? What type of project, Steve?
Nothing really right now. I mean, I'm just I'm semi-retired, I guess. My main project right now is a 1964 Ford heavy industrial tractor.
Well, when I met with you the other night to watch the sporting event, I mentioned to you that I have a science fiction short story I wrote in 1982 about a future America that's unfortunately become too real.
Right.
I'd love to get together with you and show you the script for that, because it would make a heck of an animation.
Yeah,
it was set in the future, sometime in the future, where, let me give you no, I can't do it on the radio. Someone will rip it off. You know how that works, Steve. There are very few original ideas.
Well, act quickly, Mike, because unfortunately all the VFX jobs are being shipped out of the country, sadly. So.
Yeah, I saw that Lucas sold his company for $5 billion.
Yeah.
Who did he sell it to, Disney?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and then we hear he's retired and he's a gentleman and he's on vacation licking an ice cream cone.
Right.
And then we wake up and I find out he built a huge enterprise in Malaysia.
Yeah.
And what would he do that for? For cheaper labor?
Yeah, cheaper labor. And unfortunately, what we had innovated back then at ILM has now been kind of piped out to all these different companies, around the world, and so they can do it for cheaper. And again, it's the old story. All the innovation that was done here has been shipped overseas. It's really sad.
Wow.
Yeah.
So why are all the visual effects being shipped out of the USA when the industry was invented here? It's just simply for cheaper labor, right?
We have countries like Canada that are giving 50% off for federal subsidies just in order to bring the production there. And the good thing...
Okay, so we'll do my science fiction movie in Canada.
What's that?
We'll do my science fiction movie either in Marin County or in Canada.
Yeah, that'd be funny. Yeah, why not? The sad reality is that, back then those were sort of innovations, and we're just kind of all sitting back, on our hands, waiting for what the next real visual innovation is going to be.
Steve, did you work with Spielberg on Jurassic Park? Who was it you worked with?
Spielberg, yeah.
I mean, was he in